everybody. Welcome to the Braille House Facebook page, and we have an author event today with Charlie Golding, who is author of When the World Went Inside. So good morning, Charlie.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Hi, thank you so much for having me this morning.
Pleasure. It's great to have you. So your book, When the World Went Inside, is about COVID-19, which has only been around for a short time. How did the book come about, and how long did you take to write it?
I had to write it pretty much straight away. As soon as I had the idea, I realized that it was needed. I certainly didn't go down into lockdown with the intention of writing a book. I went down into lockdown in survival mode, like so many of us did. And I had so many questions from my children saying, what is this? How is this affecting us? How long are we going to have it for? And am I going to get sick? And I could see their mental health being affected by it. And I realized that that wasn't something that was sustainable for us. So there was something that I needed to do. So as a storyteller, what was coming really naturally to me was just talking through it and giving basic advice, but in a really accessible way. I went looking for books which didn't exist, and I realized that I could factually write it. So yeah, When the World Went Inside came about.
Great.
And it's grown from being something very, very small that I was just doing for my children. It's really starting to take off, which is incredible.
Fantastic. Really. And do you think it'll open a wider conversation for children and parents about things like resilience? And
I'm actually thinking more and more that this is something that we've lived through now, and this is a small part of our lives. But we've all come through something that none of us at the beginning of 2020 thought that we were going to overcome or ever endure in our lives. So it's been this really interesting scenario of, this is really difficult. I am having my life turned upside down, and it's a struggle to, okay, actually we're living differently, but we found new ways to have fun, and we're actually really enjoying the little things about lockdown that we would never have enjoyed outside of it. So I think when you can start having fun within things that you initially think are going to be really hard and challenging, and you start to think, oh, actually, there's bonuses, there's things that I get to do now that I didn't before, then yeah, I think absolutely we can be more resilient, and we can realize that change is definitely within us all.
And I think we're spending a lot more time together, which is great as well.
Yes, lots of time together.
And so you've had some great feedback, I see, from the kids themselves with their thoughts about coronavirus. What are some of the best or the ones that stick with you?
Well, when I first started thinking about the book, I spoke to a lot of the kids in my life. I have 3 of my own children, and obviously, extendedly, I have lots and lots of wonderful kids in my life. But I really started with wanting to know what they thought coronavirus was. And I just think kids' minds are magical, and the way that they visualize things. So we've had responses to COVID-19 from a small 3-year-old child saying, I want to get it, and I want to put it in the bin, and I want to lock the bin up, and I want you to physically see it as being this thing that she could control.
Lovely, yeah.
And then, my own son was really quite frightened of the virus, and that's really what prompted me to realize that there was something that I needed to do to be able to really get, into that mindset of a child and reassure them and talk to them. Because we were going for a bike ride one day, and he had this absolute meltdown, but it was so much more than just your typical 3-year-old's meltdown. And he just adamantly refused to leave the house. And when I eventually managed to get him talking, I found out that it was because he was so frightened that COVID-19 was going to get him. He could just imagine this virus as being like this monster lurking behind the bush that was going to leap out and grab him.
Wow.
And so we've kind of gone from really, entertaining kids' ideas to actually for some children and for lots of children, this is affecting them on such an emotional and physical level. So let's get them talking. The more you can talk about it, the more you're going to get them understanding, the more they're going to realize that they're in control and they're safe, and life can go on as a new way of normal.
Yeah, well, that's a really important point. You provide some practical information as well, like staying safe. And what are some of the other themes that you cover in the book?
Talking. I think really the whole book, the whole ethos behind writing the book was all about talking. So it was really important to me that we covered in the book the practical ways of staying safe. So you've got your social distancing and your hand washing. People might wear masks on the street, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily sick and something to be frightened of. It was all about presenting the facts for children in a really accessible way, but to provide them with the vocabulary, because I was so aware, I mean, it happened in our house, absolutely, that as soon as this happened, we went from either not having the TV on or from having kids shows on to suddenly the news was on all the time, and we were having quite detailed conversations about how this was affecting our lives. So there was all this frightening vocabulary happening around kids that we were doing because we had to. It was how we were processing it.
And you're not going to school, and it's like,
absolutely. So I really wanted to give the kids the vocabulary and the understanding that it's totally fine to have these conversations with grown-ups, that it might seem like it's actually a complicated subject, but it's not, and your opinion is valued and necessary.
Yeah. Well, you said you've got 3 kids. Did they act differently as individuals? How did they react to Corona?
Absolutely. So one of them's a baby, so she is sailing through this. But I have a just turned 6-year-old and a soon to be 4-year-old. And it was really interesting. Especially my daughter, my older child, had just started school. So she had done 5 weeks of prep, and then suddenly she was yanked out. So she'd gone through this massive life change at the beginning of the year, done 5 weeks and was coming out of it going, oh, this is my new life. And then suddenly home with mum all the time, homeschooling, having a different relationship with me, because suddenly mum's trying to teach me all this stuff that my teacher was trying to teach me last Wednesday and what's going on. But she handled it really, really well. And my son just lived in pajamas for the 8 weeks or whatever it was. He had a ball.
I'm sure lots of us did.
Lived his best life.
Nice. And if you could give one piece of advice when communicating what the virus is and what it means to children, what do you think that would be?
I certainly think the idea of making sure that you're answering any questions, but also that you are encouraging the idea that it's containable and that it is within that own child's capabilities and responsibilities to do what they need to do. So at the back of the book, there's there's a few pages of information, but one of them is dedicated to keeping yourself safe. Because I just really wanted the very basic facts just to be there. When we're there and we're watching our kids all the time, we can tell them what to do. They rely on us telling them what to do. And it's only really like now when the lockdown's easing, then we're trusting our kids to go out there and to, live their best lives, but doing so safely. So the more that they know, not, oh, I've got to wash my hands because mum and dad told me to, but I'm going to wash my hands because then I'm literally washing the virus down the drain. It's going away and keeping me safe. I'm not going to share a bottle of water with a friend.
Yeah.
They know those simple precautions and they're likely to take them themselves when they're not.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's so good. And in terms of the writing process, was there any advice that you can offer? Obviously, everybody has their different experiences, but the process of writing and getting a book published, how was that for you?
Yes. Well, so I've self-published this book because I knew that I was really against the clock and that I needed to get this book to market as soon as possible, because hopefully I'm probably the only person that's ever started a small business going, I really hope this isn't going to last for long. I really hope there's only going to be a market for 2 months. So I had the idea on Easter Sunday. It was this incredibly easy, for want of a better word, process in terms of writing the book, because it was what we were experiencing. It's exactly what our families were experiencing at the time. So I was there cooking the Easter roast lunch whilst scribbling down notes, and honestly the book was finished by the time the roast was finished.
Wow.
I live with 2 very clever little editors, so my children will be more brutal than any professional editor would ever have the heart to be. So, they quickly culled the bits in the book that they didn't like, and made the story what worked for them. And to be honest, the book was written for them. It was written for children. So what better editors can you have than the ones that are just like, nah, mum, done, out of here. So then I found an incredibly talented illustrator who really worked with bringing my photo. I'm not artistic at all, but I had scribbles here and I had photos of my kids, and I really wanted it to tell the truth of where we were. So, playgrounds being closed, and seeing Granny through Zoom and things like that. I had a very clear idea in my head of what I wanted, and after that, to be honest, the book was easy. It was the rest of it, which was not what went through my mind that Easter Sunday when I decided to write a book. I forgot that I was probably going to have to sell it after that.
Oh, that is stuff that comes with it. Yeah. So would you be able to read us some of the book?
I would love to. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Hopefully you can see some of the book.
Very tiny. How did you connect with the illustrator, just quickly?
I went through Fiverr, who I'm not sure if you've heard about before. Yep. So incredibly talented people on Fiverr, and Ruba was one of the people that I met through there. So I highly recommend, if you want to hear information about her, get in touch with me.
Very good.
So hopefully, this is Theo. These are Theo's favourite things: dining with Granny and having sleepovers, going to the playground, riding his bike, camping, shopping, playing board games, eating ice cream, going to the beach and watching TV, baking yummy cakes, seeing friends at school, colouring in, and playing at his friend's house. There were other things that Theo dreamed of doing, but these were his favourite things. One day he was told there was a new virus making people very sick, but he wouldn't catch it if he stayed at home. There were still people out and about, but they didn't come very close, and sometimes there were masks on their faces. Not funny masks or Halloween masks, but ones like doctors wear. Theo's life was very different now. The news was always on TV, and grown-ups sometimes looked worried. They used words he'd never heard before, like restrictions and social isolation, coronavirus and pandemic. One day, there was the best news ever. School was closed!
Yay! Well, look, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that.
You're
beautifully
so welcome.
illustrated. Gives us a great idea. So where can people get the book?
The easiest place at the moment is to hop on to whentheworldwentinsidebook.com.
Very good. And yourself, how do people get in touch with you, or if they have any questions or...
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I am often to be found lurking around on the socials, so you can find me on Facebook at When the World Went Inside.
Excellent. And just lastly, do you just have any final comments for... So Braille House has a bookshop, which is Bookshop 507, and it's print books for sale, funding library books in Braille. So do you have any general comments about reading or Braille or...
Well, this was something I had not, to be honest, given enough thought about. And I'm so glad that you reached out to me, because it's really got me thinking. And I've been doing some looking around through the books that are on offer, and thinking about the library that you've got, and just mainly it's a big thank you for coming to me and asking for me to talk about the book, because it's got me thinking in a way that I should have been thinking before.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thanks again so much for joining us this morning. And everybody watching, go and get a copy of this book. It is for right now, it is more important, and it's something that your children will take with them for the rest of their lives. So thank you so much for joining us, Charlie, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Bye.
See you later.